So in the last few months, Tycoon has been adding a lot of different limiteds into the game, and a lot of people actually do not like this. However, in this video, I'd like to focus about a topic which is heavily disliked, and that's going to be the fact is why almost every single new limited in this game has to end up being a variant. The only ones which were an exception to this were the Weasel family and the Hovercrafts, which ended up being variants which are not limited. And with this, of course, we also had the BMD4M. And today, I would like to also talk about the missed out potential which developers are actually heading into here. But my personal issue with every single variant that's being added into the game is that we cannot actually unlock them through the standard war operations. We don't really get an infinite time to actually unlock them. I don't like the direction in which Tycoon is actually heading with here, because they're actually missing out a lot of key opportunities which they could have with vehicles. For example, a variant of a vehicle doesn't have to be literally making a complete new vehicle. Like, for example, with the T90 and the TOS Buratino, they basically had to make a completely new model to make a variant here. However, for example, if they wanted to go with a variant like the Abrams X, for example, they could have gotten rid of the Javelin and gave it 2 Stingers instead. This would actually balance out the Abrams X quite well, because it would give it better anti-air capabilities. However, it would sacrifice the extra damage it can have on the ground in being able to see through walls. In my opinion, that would be a perfect balance. And another perfect example of this will be something like the F-22 Raptor. They could make a variant of it which gets rid of its missiles and bombs, and basically what this means is that it's sacrificing some kind of firepower for this vehicle. However, in return, it just gives it better maneuverability and overall speed. Just like in real life, it's actually very realistic. Or with something like the F-35, you could add in more weaponry for this vehicle, but in return, you are sacrificing speed and maneuverability. There are simply so many ways in which they could do variants which actually balance these vehicles out. Like, for example, even the B-2 Spirit, give it, I don't know, something like 4 bunker buster bombs, but in return you only get 4 bombs as your ornament, and in return you're going to end up being slower or something. There are so many ways in which they could actually do variants in this game, which actually do not take them too much time to make. Like even with the A-10, instead of giving it the smart bombs and 2 air missiles, they could give it something like 8 ground missiles, which could also allow it to be a perfect ground counter. There are so many ways in which they could do this without actually updating the loadouts, because Tycoon developers have actually made it clear in the past is that they're not going to be adding a feature which basically lets us edit loadouts of every single vehicle, which is fine. But in this case, if they want extra content that can be released very fast, just let us have a lot of variants which just simply do different jobs and have different weaponry. Like, for example, the Eurofighter Typhoon. This is a multi-role plane. It does have its 2 ground missiles, but how about you could do some kind of trade where you get rid of its 4 air missiles, so you sacrifice the air capabilities and give it 6 ground missiles instead, or just do vice versa by giving it 6 air missiles instead of having those 2 ground missiles over here. I think people would appreciate this quite a lot. But instead, what we're recently getting in a lot of these updates is either some trash vehicles which basically end up being a complete redesign of one vehicle. So for example, we have something like the Nighthawk and the Seahawk. So this one is basically a broken and unrealistic version of the Nighthawk, but why couldn't they just give us a different Nighthawk which basically has different types of weaponry? I think once again this will be so much more appreciated. Like, another perfect showcase right here is that they have the Weasel series, which are all made for their own different jobs, but really all you're adding to it, it's different weaponry on the top. The overall design of these vehicles still stays the same, which allows the developers to actually push out these vehicles in so much quicker time too. I feel like this is such a missed out opportunity, because developers actually have a chance to have a game which does have a lot of vehicles which are just different in every single way, and this would overall just allow the exchanges to become unique every single time, because you don't know the armament of your opponents. So you have to try to find different strategies every single time on the spot, because right now most of the players have actually figured out a strategy for countering each and every single vehicle, and then it ends at that. The creativity actually just ends. However, in war, you have to think very creatively. So anyway, I really wanted to cover this topic in today's video. I really don't like how the limiteds are done. I feel like they could actually just make them much more simple, or they could actually give us proper variants for vehicles instead of giving every single variant limited. Anyway, I'll see you guys next video. Have a great day, and do let me know in the comment section down below what you think about this. I really do feel like the current direction is a little bit of a problem for the game.